Hello and welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Chris Schaefer. I am your host for today's special episode focused entirely on questions and answers. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can get through today. I have a bunch of questions from listeners. If you'd like to participate in the party here, you can go to paidsearchpodcast.com. The link is in the description of wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, the link will be there. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, the link is also in there. If you'd like to watch on YouTube, the link is in the description. You can watch there. Wherever you prefer to engage with the podcast, I try and get it there for you. This podcast is brought to you by optio.com/PSP. You can get an 8-week, 2-month free trial of the greatest online Google Ads management software out there, period. That's a special offer that you can find in the link in the description of this episode. It's an offer we've been doing for a long time. I assume they're going to keep offering it, but it's been around for a long time. Maybe they won't. You need to take advantage of this special offer because it's your best way to take your Google Ads to the next level. You can get more done in Google Ads. You can see things in a way that you've never seen before. There's graphics and analysis in there that takes you beyond the basic level of Google Ads management, whether you're doing management across a bunch of accounts or just one account. It's a great way to have someone hold your hand through the process and make sure you're not missing anything big. Make sure you can see what's right in front of you. And sometimes, as I know very well, sometimes you just can't see what's out there because you've just been staring at the same metrics all the time. You don't know where to go. This is a great guide, wonderful tool. Be sure and check it out at optio.com/PSP. So as I said, we are going to focus, and you probably noticed, I'm moving quick here. I told myself, I was kind of prepping before the show, and I was like, I wonder if I can do an episode where I answer a bunch of questions. Some of them have been sitting in the inbox for a while. Some of them are new. And I want to answer a bunch of questions from listeners because I know you guys have a lot of pressing. Some people even describe these questions as burning questions. I'm sorry I've left some of you burning for a long time, but I do get a lot of questions. And I'm going to try and be more purposeful about answering these questions, possibly doing full Q&A episodes when these questions start to accumulate. So maybe I'll do another one here again. So be sure to go to paidsearchpodcast.com. Send in your question that way. I'm also on Twitter at paidsearchpod. I do check that and tweet every now and then if you'd like to follow me there. It is me. It's just me. I'm not on Twitter anywhere else. That's my one little thing, and I kind of check it every now and then, and I'm happy to communicate that way as well. Okay, so we're going to go right in. I got my first question here coming in from Chester in the United Kingdom. It's Tom in Chester, United Kingdom. I screwed that one up already. Okay, he says, "Hey Chris, I'm constantly working on multiple client accounts, and I'm unsure whether to leave on text assets for Performance Max campaigns under the campaign settings tab. Have you had any dealings with these so far? If so, what are the benefits, if any, and how do they attribute to campaign performance? Thank you, Tom." All right, thanks, Tom, for the question. And as Tom very specifically noted in the question, this is in the settings tab. So what he's referring to is a settings at your campaign level that you can turn on and allow Google to create assets in your ads. Basically, are you going to allow Google to write some ads, write some headlines, kind of do freely whatever they think would help you in the account? And Tom, I don't really have I can't tell you that I've done a test. Turn it on, see how it works, and turn it off, Because honestly, the only effects that I would ever trust would be a click-through rate difference. Okay, I've talked about this before, very firm on this kind of thing. I do not attribute conversion rate to writing better ads. Some people might argue with me there, but I think if you have a strong conversion rate, I think that points more to the traffic that you're bringing to the site. I think it attributes to the landing page, the message on the website that you're doing. I don't think that ad copy. So, all right, so great. The click-through rate has gone up, and I know that's important. You want them to see the right messaging. And in order to get a conversion, you have to get a click. I understand that. But in order for me to really care, I'm going to care about conversions. I'm going to care about movement. I'm going to care about quality of traffic. I'm not really going to care about click-through rate. And the problem here is that I have a control problem. I have a problem about the control of Google Ads and making sure that the message I want is what shows out there. And if I have a control problem, imagine how much more control problem people who are managing their own accounts have. I'm working with a client right now that is absolutely just micro-focused on what shows up when someone does this search, what image pops up, what headline is there, what's the flavor of the messaging in that ad copy. What I don't like about leaving this setting on that you're referring to, Tom, is that you lose control. And you say, well, maybe losing control is worth the benefit. Okay, so what's the benefit? The benefit would be better click-through rates. So now I've made full circle here. I've laid out my whole argument. So if you put it all together, I don't really care about inflated click-through rates because I don't care if more people click on my ads. What I care about is more conversions. I would rather have moderate to low click-through rate and a phenomenal conversion rate. I would rather keep people away from clicking on my ad and only attract the few that I actually want, rather than the opposite, attracting the many and only converting the few. So for that reason, I tend to be very, very restrictive with my ad copy. I'm not really interested in appealing to everyone. That's why I might put, prices in my ad copy. I might put something that would scare away people, starting at $1,500. Well, a lot of people aren't going to click on it because they don't want to spend $1,500 for this item. They're looking for something that's like $200, $50. And this is way out of what they're looking for. So that's great. I now have dropped my click-through rate, but I've probably improved my quality of traffic by only attracting the people that are interested in a luxury high-dollar item. That's why I'm not a big asset fan. Automatic assets, auto assets like that, of adding headlines to an ad that that the algorithm says would be a good one. This would vary based on different situations, different accounts, but I hope that's where the benefit is that you can get more click-through rate. You can possibly get maybe better quality scores because the system's going to know what the system wants, and so it might help you with better ad strength by picking the things that lead to better ad strength, that leads to better click-through rate, maybe a little bit lower cost per click, and at the high end of benefits. But not a big fan of giving up control. As I said at the beginning, I'm a control freak, so that's my 2 pence on it. Since I'm talking to Tom in the UK, 2 pence instead of 2 cents. See what I did there? I am a world-class, world-traveled kind of guy. Speaking of around the world, we're going to go down under. We got that Rob guy from Australia. Rob has been a listener of the show for a long time. Used to be part of the Patreon when we did that. I mean, I remember Rob. So good to hear from you again. Very simple question, and I like this, to the point. What are the pros and cons of using the lead form extension? As in quality, best practices, should you use it because Google wants you to use it? Okay. So first of all, if you talk about just using it and not using it, Google does like for you to have extensions, assets. Extension is the old term. The new term is ad assets. So Google likes for you to have assets, site links, call extension, business name, business logo. There's a bunch of them now. Google encourages those because they attract attention. They make the ad very attractive, and it provides a good experience, a lot of options for people to engage with the ad in a lot of different ways. So best practice, just black and white best practice is, yes, Google wants you to use it, and anytime Google encourages someone, the way they encourage you is by allowing a higher impression share, better quality scores, something like that. They encourage best practices because they reward them in the way that you want to be rewarded, with money. The other side of this is that lead forms are more complicated than you might realize. And for most of the clients and people that I consult with and work with, lead forms are not useful for them. And let me stop right here and define, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, what a lead form is. If you set up a ad asset, that's a lead form. What you do is you create a form on the website that is automatically designed for people to fill it out, and they process their information right on that ad, and they don't have to go to your website to provide that information. It's great that someone can fill out a form without going to a website. I mean, it's going to increase the chances of interaction on the ad. The same reason that a phone number in an ad is a huge asset for most companies out there that are interested in phone calls, because people can just call straight from the ad. Less clicks involved. They don't have to click on the website, then find the form, then fill it out. It's getting straight to the point. Cut to the chase. Fill out the lead form. You get a lead. I mean, that's black and white. That is excellent. That's great. So I like it for that reason. The problem that it doesn't fit a lot of my clients that I work with is because it's a whole lot more complicated than it used to be. Back in the day, several years ago, it would just email you anytime someone filled out that form. And the last I checked, now it requires one of two options. You have to have a lead acquisition system like Salesforce, or some kind of system that will bring in the lead automatically. And for a lot of small businesses, this is not something they have in their process. They just get an email and they respond to it. I mean, if you're a plumber and you have like HubSpot lead acquisition through there, I mean, that's overkill. I mean, most of the time that is not the way that it goes. So it's really impractical. The other way that you can interact with it is you have to go to it and download a CSV list of everybody that's filled out the form within a certain time period. That's really impractical, because that's a very impractical way of getting lead info. You have to remember to go do it. You have to navigate to Google Ads, which a lot of business owners aren't going to really do that on a daily basis. And you've now entered into a delay between the person filling out the form and you responding to them. I don't find that it's practical. So for most of the time, the benefits could be great, and if you fit the criteria that it would work for you, and downloading the CSV file or connecting it to some type of lead acquisition software, lead management software, something like that. If that works for you, then great, because I do think that it can be just as amazing to have someone interact with a form right on google.com and fill out their information, and then you just get that. They never even went to your website. Extremely valuable. But if that doesn't work for you, you probably fall into the same camp that I do, and I just ignore. I don't use it. It's not right for probably 90% of my clients. I'm trying to think if I even have one that uses it. I don't think so. I don't even think I have one that uses it. Back in the day, I did. Back in the day, whenever it just emailed you every time a person filled out a form, definitely had people on it. But now they've overcomplicated. I don't like what they did, so I can't really recommend it unless you fit certain criteria. So that's the lead form extension, lead form asset. Thanks, Rob, from down under. Now we're going to go to Marco in Germany. Marco has a great question. I'm going to get through it here. Marco says, I'm Marco from Berlin, Germany. Big fan of the show for years. Great that you kept it going after the change out. Thank you, Marco. Appreciate the support there. I would like to ask you a question regarding something you mentioned in episode 360, around minute 30. Oh, wow. Very specific. I'm not going to look that up, but there you go. Time-stamped and everything. I was talking about apparently during that time, I was talking about the topic of portfolio strategies. Okay. As far as I understand, Marco goes on to say, you suggest that grouping several campaigns under the umbrella of the same strategy, same bidding strategy, would somehow indicate the algorithm that they share not only targets but also signals. Yes, that's what I was implying. That's what I was saying. Yes, you're correct. So to take this to an extreme consequence, when we launch a new campaign, we could simply assign it the portfolio strategy used by another successful campaign, assuming it's the same kind of product and margins and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I agree with you so far. And this would dramatically shorten the learning phase. Yes, I agree with you, everything you're saying. Not too far of a leap for me. This sounds exciting and makes a lot of sense from a logical perspective. However, I can't find anything that suggests the same in Google documentation or anywhere else. Could you please provide me with this source? All right, Marco. All right. I don't have a source for you. There's a lot, and I talk about gut feeling and experience and just, black box of mystery. I say those kind of words a lot on this podcast because a lot of the stuff, we don't have that kind of documentation in Google Ads. We don't really have the ability to pinpoint exactly how something works. And this isn't a surprise. Look at where it's coming. It's coming from Google, where algorithm and SEO and all this kind of ranking, organic type of stuff, it's just as much of a, mysterious science that constantly changes all the time. So it's not a surprise that they don't say, all right, this is exactly what happens when you do this, because the whole ad rank thing, the ad rank formula, quality score stuff, we understand that it's there. We understand how it works, but we can't see it in action. It's not a transparent screen for us to see what's behind the scenes here. It's very much opaque. We cannot see what's happening. So the reason why I talked about this portfolio strategy and made such a strong argument for using it is because that's what I'm led to believe here. This is how I've experienced it to work in the past. And everything that you said to shorten the learning phase, to get, something, you build another campaign that uses the same website, the same kind of positive signals and triggers and everything. It's just, different kind of keywords, but it's the same kind of thing. Then yes, that would lead me to believe, because it's using the same conversion. If you're using automated bids with max conversions, target ROAS, maximize conversion value, any of those that are based on positive signals of conversions, this is my assumption, is that it has to use those positive signals of conversions in order to make a decision on what to bid on. And if you give it a bidding strategy that utilizes conversions and bidding strategies from a shared portfolio from active campaigns, then yes, your extreme example of launching a new campaign and shortening the learning phase and be able for it to kind of jump on a moving train, to already have momentum as it launches and goes, I don't think that's too far of a leap. I don't have I don't have a URL to send you to. I don't have any documentation to show you that. A lot of the stuff I speak based on what I've seen, because that's the kind of thing we have to work with in Google Ads. We have to work on what we've seen, what we've experienced, and some assumptions. And I am always transparent on this show. If you have some information contrary to that, or if you've experienced something different than that, email me. Email is paidsearchpodcast.com. My email is on there, or at least the show email is on there. I mean, you can reach me directly, chrisschaefer.com as well. You know how to find me. I'm on Twitter, as I said. Here I am just acting like you don't know who I am. You know how to find me. If you have information contrary to that, tell me. I'm happy to discuss those things. I only know what I'm shown, what I see. I'm exposed to a lot in Google Ads. I see a lot of different accounts. And from what I've seen, I've not seen anything contrary to what I've shown you there. So, Marco, great question. And thanks for pushing back a bit. And unfortunately, I have nothing to share with you that I haven't already shared, but it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that a lot of this stuff in Google Ads is a bit of a mystery. So next, we're going up to Toronto. Melanie from Toronto says, what alternatives do you have after similar audience segments are no longer available in Google Ads? Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Good question. So first of all, let's define similar audiences. If in case someone's not familiar, similar audiences are no longer available for us. They're gone now. And you can not really define exactly what they are, because they're, again, a bit of a mystery, but here's how they're supposed to function or used to function. You would, let's say, create a remarketing campaign. Okay, so you might have a remarketing campaign and you might have 3,000 people in your remarketing audience. Okay, and Google looks at that audience and finds similarities between the people that are inside that 3,000 or 30,000 audience. Google then creates what's called a similar audience, and this similar audience tries to find people that match this kind of profile. All right, so this profile of similar audiences is kind of, hey, there are people, people that come to your website look like this. We found a lookalike audience. That's another way of, I think I hear people that work on that other silly other network out there known as Face Meta Book, something like that. So when you use this audience, it tries to map people based on what they're interested in, a lot of different demographic things, what they search for, and matches who you've been getting to try and people that match that profile. So that's not really an option anymore. If it's not gone completely, it is going to be gone very shortly. I don't know exactly when the end date on that was, but we'll just say it's gone, because if you don't know about it, it's probably too late. So what are your options now that similar audiences are gone? Okay, well, I would say if you're interested in audiences and profiles and not necessarily interested in just traffic, because most of the time on this show I talk about keywords, traffic, search intent, search quality of traffic, certain value of traffic, stuff like that. And if we talk about audiences, we're no longer talking about search intent. Instead, we're talking about people. We're talking about groups of people. So if you're interested in that and that works for you, then I would say probably your next step to go from here, which replace similar audiences, is to get into Performance Max, because Performance Max is not a black and white kind of thing. You choose and map people based on affinity, in-market, demographics, certain interests in their life, age, gender, all those kind of things, and you map out different segments of people that might match the profile that you're looking for. So I would say if you're interested in similar audience segments, then that's probably naturally where you would go. Apart from that, it probably comes down to doing something like a display campaign where you are trying broader aspects of audiences and mixing and matching different audiences. For example, you could run a display campaign where you had someone who is in market for a wedding, like searching for wedding, what is it called? Like wedding event planning, something like that, right? They're in market for that, which is, a whole lot of different things. Google would have pretty strong signals about someone doing research around cakes and decorations and events and venues and all this kind of stuff. So you might do that plus another audience. So you can kind of create your own similar audience, and this is much more of a manual process, but that might be something where you can map multiple things together and see how that blends, see how you can do things there. That's one option. You can build these things for a display campaign, but that is, to be clear, that is very much a manual process versus the Performance Max. So I'd say your best option is probably going to be Performance Max, because that's very much based on persona and interests and things that are not quite as tangible as a search term, a keyword, things like that. All right, thanks. Now we'll move on to Brent from New York. Brent says, "Hey guys, I love the podcast. Thanks so much for sharing. The Q&A episodes are great." Oh, well, Brent, you'll be very happy because that's what I'm doing today. He says, "I have a couple questions about e-commerce accounts. What are your thoughts on standard shopping versus Performance Max?" Oh, all right. "When do you choose either? And how do you measure performance if you're testing between them?" All right. So first question, he has another part 2 question, which I'll get to in a minute. Let's get through this one first. So what are your thoughts on standard shopping versus Performance Max? So standard shopping is very much a black and white as you can get in shopping. Okay, it is matching your product list, your data feed, whatever signals you have in your data feed, to what a person is searching. And there's not a whole lot of mystery about why it's showing it, especially if you're running manual or max clicks. There's very little mystery. It's just matching title, all this metadata that's assigned to each of your products. It's going to be matching that to the person's search. So if they're looking for specific things, when they do those searches, they indicate what they're looking for, and then Google matches in the thousands of different products and things that people might be interested in based on what they're searching for. Really pretty straightforward. So Performance Max, using a shopping feed, can be very powerful because it goes beyond just the black and white and gets into a lot of gray. And this sometimes can be absolutely phenomenal. I find sometimes Performance Max shopping campaigns can just absolutely destroy any performance from a standard shopping campaign. That's the great side. The ugly side is sometimes you find that it's not doing as well, and there's no options for you to kind of dig in and look at it. There's not a whole lot of tweaks and buttons and levers to be able to adjust this, and that bugs me sometimes. As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm a control freak on some of this stuff, and it bugs me that I can't really deduce what's happening. If I can't take it apart and figure out, okay, where is this money going? Why isn't this working? That bugs me. So my thoughts on standard shopping versus Performance Max is, one pro and con of it is, the pro of Performance Max is sometimes it just works. The con is I can't really figure out when it doesn't work, or if it is working, why it's working. If I've spent $100,000 in my Performance Max campaign over the past couple of years, and I want to know, okay, what learnings can I derive from this? It's not something you can really look up. There's not really any way to segment or pull out any specific data to be able to make decisions. Should I, I'm making a critical business decision. Should I buy more of this product and sell it, or should I, upgrade this product and sell it? I have hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in Google Ads. I want to pull this data and I want to know, what are people searching for? What do the numbers look like? If you have Performance Max, you can't analyze to that depth. That is sometimes extremely upsetting to me. So that's the con of Performance Max. The pro of shopping, standard shopping campaigns, is that you have that ability. I can pick a specific product or group of products, block a whole bunch of different keywords out of it, and add negative keywords, and really isolate exactly the kind of traffic that I'm getting. It's a very manual process. That's great. The con is I might have gotten it completely wrong, and I might not get any conversions. I might be very happy with the quality of traffic that I'm getting, but for some reason it's not working. Performance Max has that mystery. It has that lack of control. What you give up, you get in turn something that just, there's algorithms. There's something beyond what I can do, and it can make it work. So when I choose one versus the other, and that, your question is, I tend to start with standard shopping, and if I don't like what's happening, then I might go into Performance Max, but I tend to start with with standard shopping first. That's preference. It's based, again, on the fact that I like control. Now, how do I measure performance? That's easy. Very short answer. Conversions. If you're running a shopping campaign, the only thing that matters is sales, so return on ad spend is the bottom line. Conversions are great, but I really want to know return on ad spend. Am I getting a 2.5 or a $250, 250% return? Am I getting a 100% return, 150% return? That's the important part there. And last, Brent has a quick question here. What do you do for measuring conversion values? The answer to that is, it's complicated. There's a lot. It depends on the way that you have it all set up, but there are what's called dynamic transaction values that you can assign into your purchase process, where it pulls the actual transaction value and it pulls that in to the purchase. I think that's what you're asking, Brent. How do you measure conversion values? Because that should be automated. If you're running a shopping campaign, it should be automated. And you should have dynamic. If someone makes one conversion and then someone else makes a different conversion, you should have dynamic conversion values for each of those purchases that go through there, so that you can actually see value instead of just raw numbers of, I got 15 conversions. No, what really matters is how much did you spend and how much did you make. That's what matters. Okay, so next we go to Dixa from India. And Dixa says, before I answer Dixa's question, I want to remind you about optio.com/PSP. That is the sponsor of the show for a long time. I know I have listeners that have been around for years, and do me a favor, if you are a listener, after all this time, you still haven't tried it, please do me a favor. I don't ask for reviews. I don't ask for money. I don't ask anymore for anything from you guys, but I do ask that you try our sponsor out. And it does me a favor. It helps them to know that they're advertising with the right podcast, that people take this show seriously, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would try it out. I think you'll probably like it, and there's a reason I keep them around, because I don't, I get a lot of offers, a lot of things, and they're really the only people that I really like. Good people, strong software, great stuff. That's optio.com/PSP. Dixa from India says, "Hi, Chris. I'm learning some great things from your podcasts. I have some burning questions about landing page experience. It will be a great help if you either reply or include my answer in the next podcast. Okay, great, done. My current quality score is 1. Oh, sorry, wait, I read that wrong. The current quality score for one of my campaigns is 7. The landing page experience for every keyword in my campaign is below average. I've tried everything to improve my landing page experience, but I am not able to move the needle. My question is, why is the landing page experience, it doesn't improve even after all the guidelines of what you tried to do to improve it? So Dixa goes through all these things, and I'll just run through: website speed, relevancy, original content, mobile friendly, policy pages, support number, easy to navigate. Dixa, I completely understand your frustration here. There is only so much that I can say about this, not because I won't share, but because there's only so much I know, and there's just a massive amount of mystery that comes from this. I don't know exactly what's happening here. I would say a couple guesses, because it really sounds like you've done your due diligence here to try and figure it out. So here's my suggestions on what you might try. All right, so if it's only landing page experience, I would think that there's something beyond just the landing page that's triggering that for some reason. Right? Now, I'm going to go through a couple things that just, little pop-ups, little things on the site, additional features that people add to the site all the time, I think is possibly one. But it seems like you probably tried that, may have turned that off. Maybe you never had it originally at all. The next thing that I think is the campaign could be suffering from a lack of relevancy as far as the person's experience from the search that they do to the landing page, to the website. Okay? So here's the problem. You might be bringing people to the site that are merely adjacent to the kind of interest that you have on your site, right? So here's an example. I don't know what you're selling here, but one thing that that comes to mind, and I see this a lot, if people are selling a real estate course and a lot of your traffic is just real estate, just informational stuff about real estate, and not necessarily real estate about people trying to start a business, a B2B type of thing, a business-to-business acquisition type of thing, then in that instance, Google might give you landing page experience because they're not going to experience the right kind of content relevancy between the search. And Google can tell that. I mean, this is a stretch, but that's one of the things that I start to draw from here is it's probably less about your website and more to do with the kind of content that you're pushing and the kind of visitors that you're bringing to the site. It's really tough to give you an example. I mean, that might not be it. It might be something else. But the point is, this is one of the most difficult things because there could be a variety of reasons. There could be issues beyond what I would even know. Might be stuff to do with the server. There's a lot of tech stuff in here that I don't necessarily know. But I think if we're talking about Google Ads, the last resort might come down to analyze, is your traffic broader or truly adjacent to what you're looking to do instead of actually linear? Are you bringing people to your site that are actually looking for what it is that you're describing and selling on your website page? Really question that. What are those people looking for, and what are you delivering on the site? I do see that happening a lot in Google Ads where people are trying to, come up with that information. So I hope that's useful. I am Chris Schaefer. I appreciate everyone being a part of this ongoing experiment on lifting the world's knowledge of Google Ads to a whole new level. That's what I'm trying to do here. If you like the show, be sure and subscribe. I can be reached at chrisschaefer.com. Link is in the description. Reach out to me for consulting, management, anything Google Ads. That's all I do. I do Google Ads management. I will be back here next week with another episode. Be sure and send in those questions. If you would like to do more of this Q&A stuff, I get a lot of these, and I'll catch you next week.